What's going on, guys? This is Saturday Afternoon Wrestling, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because this weekend is NXT Deadline. I believe the third installment of NXT Deadline, featuring the men's and women's Iron Survivor matches. So we'll go through that whole card, all of those matches, make some predictions and everything. But before we get to that, it has been a crazy week for wrestling. Feels like so many things have happened in both AEW and WWE. So gonna do the usual. Gonna run through WWE side of things, run through AEW side of things, and then we'll hit the deadline predictions and get everyone out of here. So you have plenty of time to enjoy the weekend and to enjoy the show. So first up, we had Monday Night Raw, and we had the segment that probably everyone will be talking about, which was the New Day 10th anniversary. For months now, this story has been building towards the New Day finally splitting up, going their separate ways, someone turning on the other and going heel, and it was just kind of like this sense of doom that I think a lot of people were feeling. They were hyping the segment up, they were showing highlight video packages, they were talking, like having superstars talk about how much the team meant to them, and it was so well done. So we get the segment, and it's super tense. And Kofi and Woods come out, and they're talking to the crowd, and they're saying like, "Man, we've talked about it, and we've kind of both decided that it's in the best interest for the New Day to kind of go our separate ways here." And as they're saying that, we get the Big E music drop. He shows up. The place is going crazy. He says, "Look, I'm not like medically cleared to wrestle, but I can't see you guys fighting like this. I can't see this happening. I'm here. I'm going to be your manager every week. We're going to hold it down together. I'm going to be your manager because it can't end like this." And it's great. Like, it's awesome. The vibes are great, but because it is an anniversary segment celebration type thing, it can't be great for long because this is wrestling we're talking about. And Xavier Woods turns to Big E and says, like, "No, we're good. You left. You got hurt and you left and you just never came back. You got a desk job and you have a girlfriend and you're all happy without us. And we killed ourselves to hold everything down for you. And we like this was like some really deeply like biting stuff. Like it felt like they were uncomfortable at times even saying it to him. But like he essentially is like, we didn't advance our spots in the card because we were waiting for you to come back. So it's years and years of opportunities that we have just let pass by because we were waiting for you, and now you care to come back." Then Kofi Kingston gets on the mic, and Big E looks at him like, "Come on, please talk some sense." And he hits him with, "You broke your neck." Big E's, "I broke my neck." And Kofi's like, "Yeah, you broke your neck. So what? Stone Cold Steve Austin came back. Edge came back. Kurt Angle came back. Kurt Angle won a gold medal with a broken neck." And they like just belittle and push Big E around to the point that they're like, "Get out of our ring. Like, tell these people, stop teasing them with this. Maybe you'll get cleared one day. You're never going to get cleared. Like, you're using that as a crutch. Get out of our ring." It was crazy. And then afterwards, Woods and Kofi are like, "We're all we got. We got to stick together." Boom. Double heel turn. It's incredible. It legitimately was like the last thing that I could have saw coming. Like, I figured it was going to be some type of like, okay, one of them is going to turn on the other, or Big E is going to come out and everything's going to be good. For some reason, it just never crossed my mind that they might like both turn heel in this. And I definitely did not think they would turn heel by like running down Big E and like saying, "So what, you got hurt, you abandoned us, like toughen up." It was crazy. And like the fact that like you could tell everyone was like in shock because the people immediately started booing Kofi Kingston, and Kofi getting boos in 2024 is crazy. That dude is so beloved, and it just was so much more effective because the crowd just instantly turned on these guys. And I'm really excited to see what a heel New Day can do, because this honestly like should make them like close to the top, if not the top heel tag team in WWE right now, definitely on Raw. And I just don't think like they're going to be able to stay out of the main event scene for long if this is how they're doing it. It was incredible, and I'm also a little curious about how this all unfolded, because obviously no one knows what Big E's medical status is, and there's a chance he might not ever wrestle again. It certainly seems like he has spent a lot of time preparing people for the thought that he might not ever wrestle again. He had this incredible article on the Players Tribune that he wrote about the New Day's 10th anniversary and what that group has meant to him and what wrestling has meant to him. It was beautiful. And I think that's probably part of why it hurts so bad to watch them like completely rip him to shreds. Is this article, this column he wrote was just absolutely perfect. I will put the link in the description in case you did not see it, because it is well worth your time to read. It's incredible to think about what he's been through, and his openness about it, I think, is really, really important to see from someone in his position as a pro athlete and it just as a role model. So I will link that in the description for you to check out if you have not. But I really feel like part of this and how hard they were running him down was like kind of like felt like building towards like a Big E gets his revenge moment, like gets that retribution moment. And I don't know, that might just be me wanting to see Big E back in the ring, but like the way they ran him down and pushed him out and everything like that, like it kind of felt like this is building to some sort of triumphant moment where he pins both of them and we get the 5 count back from his NXT days or something. Like I'm gonna put a pin in that for later to see where this all goes, because it definitely did not just feel like they brought him in for a one-off appearance to help facilitate this heel turn, if that makes sense. But honestly, this was just an incredibly executed heel turn. I think the internet, everyone watching, were just kind of in shock at how it all went down. Everyone was prepared to be upset, but I don't think people were prepared to be like that kind of upset, like that, at like that type of turn. So it was unbelievably well done. I've been really loving what the Noonday has been doing with this storyline over the last couple months, and they've had some stops and starts with injuries, the whole Odyssey Jones sidetrack thing that kind of just fizzled out due to outside things, and this feels like a really good pivotal moment, a really good landing point, a really good turning point. I'm really excited to see how this goes. Also, shout out to the WWE video team, because they obviously always knock it out of the park when it comes to these video packages. But the New Day ones that they had for their anniversary, specifically the last one they showed before the segment, was like a 4-minute recap of their history. It was incredible. It was so cool to see those moments again and to like feel the emotion of Big E winning the world title and Kofi winning the world title and Woods winning the King of the Ring. Like, it was really cool to see. It was so well done. So hats off to them. I cannot believe we have all of this going on. Before I get to SmackDown too, SmackDown was tonight. I'm recording this Friday night. A couple key things I want to talk about from SmackDown before. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Survivor Series, and in particular, two decisions that WWE made in the booking to Survivor Series and in the pre-show. So WWE ran another segment that was the pre-taped sit-down meeting, and it was Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk. And it was a meeting between those guys before CM Punk joined the OG Bloodline for the War Games match at Survivor Series. And a lot of people were kind of complaining about having a pre-taped segment and like kind of like the things that get lost in translation when you're just showing a video to a crowd versus having, the people in the live crowd. But it kind of feels like they've like slowly pushed to make this like kind of a Roman Reigns hallmark, is like this like mafia style sit down. And I'm not talking like obviously like the D'Angelo family in NXT goes a little harder with these types of vignettes and lean into it really hard. But I really enjoy these. I think that this has become something, because the Bloodline does like, or the Bloodline 2.0, sorry, does a lot of pre-tapes and things like this too. And I think it's just kind of like part of the territory when it comes to like filming these like mafia style promos and these like family oriented things. And so I thought the sit down worked really well. And I think more importantly than that, it kind of served, because these are so associated with Roman and the Bloodline and the new Bloodline. It kind of felt like this was like officially pulling CM Punk into that world and into that storyline. It's kind of like he couldn't really be a part of this until he was in the pre-tape, because now we have the looming, what favor is he going to ask Paul Heyman for? Are we going to see Roman and Punk wrestle? Like, those tensions were high all night, really, the entire week before Survivor Series. And so it just kind of added a layer to it to have the sit downs and to kind of be like, okay, like CM Punk is in this now. Like, he's not just like popping up to help for one night. Like, he is entrenched in this story. And then the other thing happened on the pre-show, and it was they filmed like college and like pro football style intros for all of the members of the men's War Games match. So the Bloodline, you had like Jey Uso, Yeet University.
Main event, Jey Uso. First round draft pick to Monday Night Raw. Yeet University.
And like all of them did their own intros like that. And I've seen a lot of people kind of say it was corny. It was like, did we really need this? It's kind of corny. And I kind of thought about that a lot. Like, I thought about it more than I should. I should admit. I thought about it a lot more than I should, because I think part of it is there's been so much change since Triple H took over that I think people are like almost like overwhelmed by the change, because we've had the same product and the same beats for most of the like way the WWE stories have been told for like 30 years. Like the Vince McMahon era, like, say what you will, but at the end of it, everyone was kind of tired of it because it was all almost the same thing. Like, you could predict just about beat for beat what was going to happen. There were still the occasional like swerves and surprises, but for the most part, you kind of knew where everything was going, and they hit a lot of familiar beats, segments. They called back to all sorts of things, and this feels like fresh. It feels different. It feels like a distinct product of Triple H's WWE. And so I think it's an instance of so many different things happening and trying all these new things that people just kind of like are not overwhelmed, but just weren't ready for it. Because like, in the grand scheme of things, it was a pre-show segment that got posted on social media. Like, it's a funny clip that they did that's just trying something different. If they had Jey Uso, coming through the crowd in his entrance and had it pop up in the corner like a Sunday Night Football broadcast, like, okay, I'd be a little more like, did we really need that? So I think it's one of those things where we've had so many different things happen, and we've been so used to the status quo for so long that it's kind of jarring to see them trying all of these new things, like almost on a weekly basis, like the different camera angles, the different shots, you get the angle of Braun Breaker coming from out of nowhere with a shoulder tackle, or running into the corner of the table trying to hit that spear outside. Like, you have all these innovations and all these things that they're just kind of trying, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But I really enjoy it. I prefer this kind of freewheeling, like, we're going to see what sticks and what works. We'll try this time, and maybe we'll do something else next time. I've really enjoyed it. I really like seeing them take these kinds of chances. So, anyways, SmackDown this week had two huge developments. The Saturday night main event card is looking incredible. I believe that's 2 weeks from now. So we'll have yet another show to preview next week, which will be great. But that card is looking amazing. They announced tonight that Jesse the Body Ventura will be back on commentary for that night. They've also said that, like, all these rumors are saying they're trying to get all these old legends, including Hulk Hogan, which if we get Hulk Hogan in the ring and Jesse Ventura on commentary just absolutely running him down, that would be cool. Like, that would be a great blast from the past. But it's really shaping up to be a cool card. So we got some more in the Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes storyline, which is kind of like almost working too well, because it feels like too many people are like, yeah, Kevin Owens is right. Like, Cody should be like kind of ashamed of himself for doing that. Like, what a crazy story to run. It feels like such like a like third rail type story where you run the risk of, people turning on the champion. And like, if this story goes bad and Kevin Owens doesn't win and Cody retains and the fans are still like, he kind of never really like had to pay for betraying like all of his friends that helped him get to this point. Like, they might have a situation where they're like, we have to turn him heel, and I can't picture that right now with how hot he is as like the face of the company. So it's a really interesting thing, because like, I don't think Kevin Owens is going to win next weekend, and I think that kind of compounds everything a little bit more. Like, if there's no comeuppance for Cody Rhodes, who is, in the eyes of a lot of people, been in the wrong, then I think it's an interesting line to walk, and I think it's kind of another um, like a telling point of just how this new regime has been working. Because it is something that I don't think they would try before. There's so much nuance in it. I don't think they would have tried it before. Pro wrestling, and even 5 years ago was like in the land of giants, like type of like old school good versus evil basic types of stories. Like the nuance and the layers of these stories has been another revelation kind of just recent years with the bloodline, Cody Rhodes finishing the story, and now just about every story has these kinds of shades of gray. Like DIY, who are your new WWE SmackDown tag team champions. They defeated the Motor City Machine Guns in a very good TV main event match on SmackDown tonight. Earlier in the night, the Street Profits, who were the rightful number one contenders, were attacked and laid out backstage. Nick Aldis was like, "Oh no, the main event's ruined. What do we do? We were supposed to have this tag match." And DIY just so happened to be walking by, and they're like, "Oh, what happened? What do you need someone from? We can do a match." Just great stuff because I really didn't want to see Gargano and Ciampa break up and run back that feud one on one again. I think that it'll be interesting to see them both as heels. What I think of Johnny Gargano as a heel, I think of the way in NXT, obviously, which did not include Ciampa. So I'm curious to see if this is going to lead to that, and they're going to have, Gargano and Ciampa and Candice if they bring her into the fold, and then even Austin Theory, who could use the consistent screen time and nice setups that he was getting with the way he was like hilarious in that group in NXT. That was probably the highlight run that when I think of him, that's what I think of. So I'm really curious to see, but we get the match. Johnny Gargano and Ciampa fake having a huge blow up with each other because Ciampa wants to cheat to win, and Gargano says no. Ciampa distracts the ref. Gargano hits him with the low blow, and they together pin the champs, take the titles, and Gargano has apparently sold his soul for the titles because this whole time he had been very buddy-buddy with both of the Motor City Machine Guns, had spoke openly and glowingly about their influence on him as a wrestler and everything he's learned and taken from them from over the years. And who knows if that's all a ruse? We'll probably find that out next week. But incredibly well executed because again, this was like a really like shades of gray. Like, okay, we all know the history that these guys have with Johnny Gargano not wanting to, cheat to win and wanting to uphold his integrity, and Ciampa being so gold obsessed that he'd do anything to win. And I think it really played into those characters because I did not think that we would get the double heel turn. I figured maybe we run it back, maybe they swerve us and they don't turn heel, but I didn't think heel tag team DIY is where we were going to get. But I love it because it kind of feels like the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY just couldn't be faces at the same time on the same show because they're just such similar performers. They have such similar stories that they like to tell and their dynamics. And so I think this was kind of like the universe had to balance itself out a little bit. But a really good match on SmackDown if you did not get the chance to see it. And I'm really interested to see, similar to the New Day, like we had two longtime babyface teams just turn heel in a week, which is really cool. And I'm interested to see what kind of run DIY as heels look like with the tag titles after last time when they were kind of just like we got a good month and we had a couple defenses and then we got fed to the bloodline. So I'm really curious to see what they do this time around and what the story and the booking looks like with them as heels. But above all else, I'm really hoping this means a way reunion, even if it won't feel the same without Indy Hartwell. It kind of just, it'd be cool to have them all working together, but no Indy is, a major bummer and a major dynamic that would be missing. And then over on AEW, the Continental Classic is well underway. Tony Khan has basically said this is going to be a holiday tradition for AEW from now on. And I got to be honest, they've been absolutely killing it with this. Every match, just about so far, has been incredible. It started last week on Thanksgiving, and the matchups we've had have been so good. I think, honestly, every single one. I pulled the whole list up here just so I could go through it, but we had Shelton Benjamin and Mark Briscoe, great match. Claudio and Ricochet. Brody King and Darby Allin with this weird, like, slowly turning face Brody King and House of Black, which is awesome. Will Ospreay and Juice Robinson had a great match on Collision. Kyle Fletcher and the Beast Mortos, had an incredible Collision match. Kazuchika Okada and Daniel Garcia had a 20-minute time limit draw that was awesome to see. Those two guys were such a good blend of styles. Kyle Fletcher and Shelton Benjamin, Claudio and Brody King, Okada and Mark Briscoe, Daniel Garcia and the Beast Mortos, Ricochet and Commander. Like, it's just been so good. And now we've got two more coming up this weekend on Collision. Three more, sorry. We've got Darby Allin and Commander, Kyle Fletcher and Okada, and Mark Briscoe and Daniel Garcia. And if you look at this list or hear these matches and do not get excited about the thought of Kyle Fletcher and Kazuchika Okada, I don't know what to tell you, because that sounds like an incredible matchup on paper. Like, Kyle Fletcher has had an incredible breakout 2024 here, and I think he is in the spot right now where he could just have a huge next step in this breakout with a good performance versus Okada, who I think Okada, will remind a lot of people throughout this run why he is so highly regarded as one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think a lot of that has been lost in the extended times between title defenses and matches, the increasingly comedic promos and backstage segments. I really think this is kind of a great opportunity to remind everyone like what an animal he is in the ring and what a unique talent he is. And also, it unfortunately is not all good news for the Continental Classic. We did have an injury to Juice Robinson. He suffered a foot injury. I think he cracked his fibia. I think it was a broken or a cracked fibia during the match with Will Ospreay. They said it happened in like the first 5 minutes, and that match went for 12 minutes and 34 seconds. So if he wrestled 7 or so minutes of that match with a like fracture or a break in his fibia, that's incredible. I really hope he gets better soon. He's apparently going to miss the entire Continental Classic and will likely not be ready to return until 2025, which is a bummer because it feels like they just got Jay White back. We just started getting Juice and Jay White together again. The Guns are both out. I think one of them is injured as well. It's just a shame. It does not feel right seeing Jay White come out without Juice Robinson. So I really hope he gets well soon. But other than that, kind of a downer note, I think Commander being the replacement is a really good call because he's almost like the polar opposite of Juice Robinson. So you get a completely fresh and different dynamic in a lot of these matchups with how, agile and high flying he is. So I really think it's a smart move to pivot completely away from someone of Juice Robinson's archetype. And I really cannot stress enough how entertaining all of these matches have been. And honestly, I think that's everything. I do have one more quick thing on the WWE side of things that I forgot to mention. Sincere apologies, but we had a couple injuries that came out of WWE Survivor Series that were confirmed tonight on SmackDown. Tonga Loa will be out with a torn bicep. Jimmy Uso suffered a broken toe. And of course, Bronson Reed will have surgery to fix a broken ankle as well that he suffered on the tsunami attempt from off of the top of the cage. So really hope all those guys get well soon, particularly, of course, honestly, all of them, but with actually, honestly, all of them, because they're all really involved in this bloodline story now. I was going to say Tonga Loa and Jimmy Uso because they're so clearly entrenched in the storyline, but Bronson Reed is too, and it's not, I don't want them to get healthier faster than him. So hopefully everyone gets well soon. We get them back in the ring without any issues, setbacks, anything like that, because it's always a bummer to see anyone get hurt for any period of time. So with all that said, let's get into NXT Deadline, which will be happening this Saturday at, I believe, 4 or 5 o'clock Pacific time. 4 o'clock might be the pre-show. So 5 o'clock Pacific time, I'm going to say. It is coming at you live from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have got 5 matches on the card, including the 2 Iron Survivor Challenge matches, which are whoever has the most pinfalls. The end of the 25-minute time limit will be the number 1 contender to their respected title, whether it's Trick Williams or Roxanne Perez for the women. So I will go in reverse Wikipedia order here because I do not think that the men's Iron Survivor match will kick off the show. Here is the card we have. We've got 5 matches. First up here, I've got Lola Vice versus Jada Parker in an NXT Underground match. This feud feels like it has been going on forever. They continually try to escalate it and escalate it. We have that segment this week where Lola Vice interfered and cost Jada Parker and honestly all of the other competitors in the women's last chance Fatal 4 match. The victory, which went to Ren Sinclair, which is a really cool choice too, but we'll get to that later. So obviously they've built this to the blood feud point. It is going to be NXT Underground, which kind of feels like they're kind of trying to position to be Lola Vice's like type of match, like her kind of specialty match. So I'm kind of leaning Lola Vice here. I think both of them would be fine with a loss. And I'm really the only deciding like factor that's kind of pushing me one way or the other is the thought that that this is going to be like a Lola Vice specialty type of match. So if she becomes like the queen of the NXT Underground match, then I could easily see her getting the win here. Jada Parker, though, is just so hard to predict her matches because she's so over with the crowd. It feels like she's a little more like set in her character than Lola Vice is, if that makes sense. Like she feels like a little more defined and established as a character. But I'm going to say Lola Vice, and I'm going to say someone in the broadcast calls her the queen of NXT Underground because they love saying things like that. Next up, we've got the NXT Tag Team titles with Nathan Frazier and Axiom defending against No Quarter Catch Crew's Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights. Now, this story, you talk about storylines that have been going on forever. This Nathan Frazier Axiom split up storyline has been dragged out for so long. I have thought they were going to turn on each other so many times. I thought they were going to turn on each other, and then the Rascals turned on each other like 3 months ago. And like they've been just ever since just holding steady. Chase U broke up, and they still holding steady. Chase U's not a faction anymore. That whole feud happened, and they are just holding steady with this teased tension between the two of them, and this whole both of them are spreading themselves too thin type story. And I'm gonna say it. Fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, I'm not gonna get fooled again. I'm gonna say we get new tag team champions. I'm gonna say the No Quarter Catch Crew win. They've been on a hot streak lately with wins and performances, and I think they get the win. I think we get the teased dissension between Nathan Frazier and Axiom, but nothing happens here. Think it happens later. But I do think that this is the show, finally, where we pull the trigger on the split and go from there, and we're off with a new team leading the tag division and a world of possibilities for a Nathan Frazier Axiom feud. Next up, which is crazy to me that it's listed 3rd on the card, but who knows, it probably won't be the main event. We have Trick Williams defending the NXT title versus Ridge Holland. And this is so much more difficult to predict than I expected it to be when I sat down to record this. I gotta be honest, because on paper, looking at it, Trick should win this without any problem at all. Like, this feels like a no-brainer. But the problem with that is when it feels like a no-brainer is when the weirdest, biggest swerves tend to happen. And when I look at this and I think about Ridge Holland and I think about everything that has gone into him being established as a heel for this run, specifically as a monster heel for this run right now that he is on, he decimated every single member of Chase U. He beat and eliminated that entire faction. Chase U is not a faction because they needed Ridge Holland to look as strong as possible. So, do they do all that just to have him lose his first title shot against Trick Williams? Or do they do that to establish him as a strong enough threat that they can credibly put the title on him? I don't know. I know how I feel personally, and what I would like to see is that does not happen. I would like to see Trick Williams win, but I have a hard time in the back of my mind letting go of the thought that, they sacrificed probably their most popular team in Chase U to build Ridge Holland. Like that's it. Like I said, they're not a faction anymore. We'll see what that story, how that unfolds and what happens next with all of those guys. But as far as everyone in WWE is concerned, and NXT is concerned, Chase U is gone because Ridge Holland destroyed it. So I just can't kind of get that. I can't get over that. I just feel like him losing this first shot at the title, um, right after this big triumphant win, it just doesn't add up to me. Like, it feels like it would be like, oh, okay, so he's a threat to like this level of competition, but not this level of competition. Like something like that. And it's probably backwards wrong type of thinking. But you know what? I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna say Ridge Holland upset win, and we get the coronation here. I don't like it. Like, I just want to reiterate, I would like Trick Williams to stay the champion, because I would like him to face the winner of the Men's Iron Survivor match if it is who I think it is going to be. I would really like to see that match, but I'm going to say NXT does the full bit and crowns Ridge Holland as the new champion in a stunning final top off to this monster heel development run that they've been on with him. Now we have the two Iron Survivor Challenge matches. We have the women's first up here, which is Sol Ruca versus Stephanie Vaquer versus Zarya versus Julia versus Ren Sinclair. And this is a crazy match. Like, the NXT women's division has become almost too loaded with talent. Like, they have so many credible top competitors here that could be champion, that could be in title matches, that could, and like, they are loaded, because this isn't even all of the women. Like, even the final chance fatal four-way this week with Cora Jade and Kalani Jordan. Like, there's so many talented people that aren't even in this match. They just are an embarrassment of riches in the NXT women's division right now in particular. So I think, obviously, looking at this, the two names that stand out are Julia, Stephanie Vaquer. I think either one of them, probably Stephanie Vaquer, is the match people are looking forward to, because we did already get Julia and Roxanne once before, even if it ended in, controversy. So I'm going to say Stephanie Vaquer wins this. But I really don't know. Like, yeah, I could be talked into basically all of them. Even Ren Sinclair, who, it kind of like landed into this match in, the humorous kind of way. I could see her winning. I don't think she's gonna win. I think what it's more likely to be is she takes a ton of pinfalls in this match, because you've got a lot of people that you're keeping strong here. A lot of babyface wrestlers here that you're keeping, that need to look strong coming out of this match. So Ren Sinclair being there to take a bunch of pins kind of feels like what her role is actually going to be, even though I do think she could, credibly be a good challenger to the title as well. And it would be a good story to have her kind of overcome all of these unbelievable talents to find, the opportunity. So I'm going to say Stephanie Vaquer, but I think this is probably going to be the best match on the card for the night. Then we have the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match, which is Wesley versus Javon Evans versus Nathan Frazier versus Ethan Page versus Eddie Thorpe. And the person I want to see win this, that I hope wins this, is Wesley, because I think a Wesley Trick Williams program for the NXT title is just money. It sounds like absolute money to me. So I really hope that that's the direction that they go in. But similar to Ridge Holland, getting a lot in this Eddie Thorpe heel push type thing, like the slow burn heel turn that they've been rolling out with him. And so I could see him kind of getting the win and becoming a credible threat to Trick Williams, kind of a la Ridge Holland, where, he's all of a sudden a full-blown heel doing horrible, dastardly heel things. I will say the one prediction I have here that I think is 100% lock is Nathan Frazier will not win this match, because Axiom will cost him. I don't know if maybe Frazier shoves Axiom earlier in the night if they lose the tag titles, but I think that Nathan Frazier will not win this match, because Axiom will cost him, and like that interference will take him away. And that is how we will go into the feud. Like I said, I don't think they're going to just come straight to blows and lay each other out after the tag match. I think it's going to rear its head here, because they're going to need something to keep him out of the action at the end to kind of set up the finish if I had to guess. So there we go. I think it's going to be Lola Vice, No Quarter Catch Crew, Ridge Holland, Stephanie Vaquer, and Wes Lee as your winners on the night. And honestly, I think that's everything. I think, like I said earlier, all of these shows, both of these companies have been absolutely killing it. Also, special shout out to Matt Cardona, who is popping up in Ring of Honor and AEW right now, challenging Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World title. What a bad time for all of the stuff that happened with Ring of Honor and AEW and Effie a couple weeks ago. I tend to stay out of like the GCW and like super indie type of things, but the Effie story was everywhere. Quick summary if you did not see it: Effie was doing an interview on his podcast and called out Tony Khan for essentially being like a nepo baby with a rich dad, and that's why AEW would never struggle. And then almost immediately, AEW pulled Ricky Starks, who had finally popped up on something after months of just being off of TV. They pulled him from all GCW appearances, and just one more thing in the plight of Ricky Starks here. So really interesting to see Ring of Honor and Matt Cardona, who is a huge figure in GCW, as well, be involved in this. I think it's probably some type of damage control to kind of smooth over whatever that working relationship is with AEW and those indie companies. But just really, really cool to see him in those broadcasts, to see him on Ring of Honor and to hear the chants, and to see him on AEW even more, and for the crowd to be even more stunned. I think it's going to be a fun match. I don't know how excited I'm getting for a Chris Jericho match in Big 2024, but Matt Cardona on TV is always money as far as I am concerned. So, I'll take half of that. I'll take at least half of this matchup. So I think that's everything I wanted to hit this week. If there's anything I missed, or if there's anything that you're super excited to see at NXT Deadline, or if you have thoughts, if you're finding this after the show has happened, let me know all your thoughts. I want to be way more consistent. I know this is probably the worst time to say this because it's like the holiday season's ramping up, but I want to be more consistent with posting things. I did not realize it had been so long already since I had posted anything. Kind of traded being sick back and forth with my wife, Thanksgiving, all that stuff. But I plan on locking in a little bit more because the end of the year into the start of next year with Raw moving to Netflix, there's just too much stuff to talk about. So if you have any thoughts on anything I mentioned, if you have a heartbreaking New Day thought or your favorite New Day moment you want to bring up, you are more than welcome to do that as well. I'll put the email address in the description. You can always comment if you are on YouTube. I appreciate everybody watching or listening. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a good weekend and enjoy NXT Deadline.